Good morning and welcome everyone to another episode of MC Commute. It is a bright, sunshiny day and we're going to ride to the office. This commute is brought to you in part by Metzler. Metzler has been making tires since 1892, so if you have two wheels and an engine, probably make tires for your machine. To support Metzler and its support of MC Commute, go to Metzler.com or click on the link in the description of this video. On today's ride, we have the artist formerly known as FJ09. That is a Tracer 900 GT to be specific. So that's your standard issue Yamaha triple with some upright ergos, some wind protection, some luggage, and quite a bit of capability. So we're gonna ride to work, we're gonna find out what it's all about.
All right, okay. Tracer 900 GT, or as this badge points out, Tracer Goo GT. I don't know why they made the logo like that. Doesn't it kind of look like it says goo? Anyway, Tracer 900. So these are MT09 brakes, basically. It's 298 millimeter rotors. We'll talk about those. Let's see. What else we got? Luggage, of course. 22 liters each. You can't fit a helmet, but you can fit some other stuff. It's pretty nice. Passenger accommodations, which I might forget to talk about. They made the legroom for the passenger more accommodating by an inch and a quarter or something like that, so it's pretty good. My lady friend's 5'10", she said it was pretty comfy. I'll talk more about passenger stuff later, I hope, but anyway, yeah, and that triple, gotta be excited about that. LED headlight, which is pretty good in my opinion. All right, it's really hot, so let's get riding. I need some wind on me. All right, so Tracer 900, like I said, this is formerly the FJ09, aka Fudge 9. They updated it to the global moniker, which is probably smart, so that people in other countries aren't like, why do you call it that? If you're watching from another country, you won. You won, you win, you get the Tracer and the MT and all that, so good for you. I think a lot of people just thought that this was a really basic update that only included the name, but there's actually lots of stuff. TFT dash, which we'll get to. The handlebar is narrower, the swing arm is longer, I believe. Those passenger accommodations that I mentioned right quick. Yeah, they did a bunch of stuff. I think most importantly, they recognize the platform as one that people like and that has merit and that people want to use, so they sort of, you know, adapted the chassis and adapted the model further to accept all the stuff, the passenger accommodations and making the seat more comfortable and the swing arm longer and that kind of thing. And the beating heart, of course, is that 847cc triple, which came out in 2014, I believe. Was it 13? Ugh. I went to the press launch, for crying out loud. Anyway, FZ09, they came out with that bike a while ago, so that's that same engine that everybody likes so much. And it has 3 ride modes, which people don't usually like so much, which you can change with this toggle here. So I'm in B mode. I like it in B mode. We'll experiment maybe with A mode, just to sort of give you an idea of what it's like. In fact, we can do that right now. I think you can change it on the fly, can't you? Can I not? Oh, I can. You just gotta not be on the throttle. Ooh. I mean, it's so excitable in A mode. It's really wants to boogie. Some of you folks might have noticed that I dropped the bike down off a center stand when I took off from my driveway there, and the center stand is center standard on the Tracer 900 GT and the base Tracer 900, which, don't forget to let me talk about that. So here we are cruising along in A mode, and some people say, it's unrideable, it's ridiculous, how come it sucks that much? And other people say, it's not that bad, what's your problem? I'm sort of in between camps. You know, it's fine, obviously, like, it works, but it is just a tad more aggressive than I think is really necessary, especially considering the bike is, it's basically a sport tour. But hey, you got options, and that's what they meant to provide, and they did so. Ergonomics on this bike. I got a few questions on Instagram about the ergos on this bike. One guy said he's 6'6", and will he fit on this bike? Yes, sir, you will. This bike is actually great for tall people, I think. I'm not especially tall, 6'2", but there's lots of leg room, and the seat adjusts, I believe, from 33.5 inches to you can go up about 0.6 of an inch to 34.1 in the upper position. I rode around with the seat in the high position, and it's fine. Like, I wasn't struggling or anything, but it is a tall seat. I mean, very tall. And the pegs are fairly low, in my opinion. So yeah, you get lots of leg room. There's also a quick shifter on this bike, which we'll experiment with now. It works pretty well. I like it. All right, brakes on the Tracer. I only have one real caveat with the brakes. The same basic componentry as an MT-09. I think they're sort of fine for the MT-09, but this bike weighs just about 500 pounds with a full 4.8 gallons of fuel, and that's a lot. I mean, it's heavy, and the brakes are not, they're not the best brakes on a 500-pound bike that you're gonna find. Plus, considering the bike's rowdy nature, which we can experiment with right now. Rap! Yeah! It's cool. I mean, it makes, 100 and something horsepower, just more than 100 horsepower. Just like this engine always has, and it's really fun. I just wish the brakes were a little bit better, even though they're not bad. That's all I really have to say about that, I guess. I will say one thing about this engine. It's real rowdy and fun, and it's just a terrific engine. It's one of the best engines in motorcycling. But they lengthened the swing arm, and the bike is heavier, so it's definitely less wheelie prone than the MT-09 or even the previous Fudge 9, in my opinion. Then of course you got your adjustable windscreen, which we'll talk about a little bit on the freeway, but I wanted to sort of touch on it now because it is loud on the freeway. I'm not sure you're gonna be able to hear me on the freeway as well as usual, because the way this air tumbles off this hits me right kind of at the base of the helmet, and yeah, it's a little bit loud. This adjustment system is brilliant though. They basically knocked off the Ducati Multistrada system, the old pinch and slide they call it. So you just pinch this and you can drop the windshield or raise it up. It's very, very easy to use. So they've done real good with that, and the windscreen is a little bit higher quality, I think. Even just the plastic, I mean, it just sort of looks nicer. It's shaped a little bit nicer. The last one was kind of a brick, in my opinion. I'm gonna put it back in B mode. That's where I feel comfortable. Bike's telling me it's 82 degrees, but man, it feels warmer than that. Holy moly. That's basically an R1 dash that you're looking at there, right? That's a color TFT that is comes on the Tracer 900 GT. With the GT you get cruise control, you get the TFT dash, you get higher spec suspension, and you get the luggage, again included but not limited to those things. I don't know if I memorized it all exactly right, but that's the upshot of it. And instead of $10,700, it is $13,000 for this bike, which is something we're going to talk about later after we do this run down the freeway, which is going to happen anytime now. God damn it. Would you... I got an F-150 behind me, otherwise I was going to trip at this light. Sit in the sun all day. Alright. Way we go! It is a rowdy machine. It likes being revved. It likes having fun. Even though it's, got a sort of Asics dad shoe vibe about it. It's a fun bike. not the best time to talk about it because I can't point out the exact handles, but the headlights adjust, which is pretty cool. There's little dials down here somewhere. I'm not really looking because I'm looking at the traffic ahead of me. There it is. You crank those dials and you can change the pitch of the headlight. That's a really cool sport touring feature. You want to make sure the headlights are pointed the right direction. You don't have to use any tools. You just spin those little dials. It's pretty cool in my opinion. While we're at it, this bike has heated grips, which is another great feature that I'm not using because it's 86 degrees now. But not only does it have 3 settings of heated grip, but you can control what the 3 settings are. So each setting has a range 1 to 10, and you can choose how powerful you want each of those settings to be within the menu. So you want the low setting to be 2, and you want the medium setting to be 4, and you want the high setting to be 8. That's what you can do, which again, brilliant, right? So again, the wind protection on this bike I think is quite good, but it is loud. It is loud, especially going 70 or 80. It dumps a lot of air around the bottom of my helmet. It makes it quite loud. I think that's partly my body type. I've got kind of a long torso. Yeah, that's a factor. I don't think the wind protection's bad. I think it just doesn't work quite right for me. And if it were me, and if you do follow me on Instagram, you would see that I took the windscreen off completely and I rode it like that, which in hot weather was nice. Although if I owned this bike, I would probably buy an extra windscreen, or even just chop this one down. I think if I cut it down to somewhere around here, that would work for me. It would take wind off my chest, but it would leave my helmet in clean air, which is the right way to fly, in my opinion. There's also accessories from Yamaha. You can get a touring windscreen, which is much taller and takes more wind off your chest. So there are options. All this is to say, someone commented on Instagram that they sold their FJ09 because the wind protection wasn't right for them. And don't do that. Experiment with other stuff first, and whoever you are, maybe you did and you just didn't like the bike, and that's fair, I guess. But if the wind protection isn't quite right for you, if it's loud or if it's just, then mess around with it. It's worth doing. Make it comfortable, make it your own, you know? So even though we were stuck in a little bit of traffic on the freeway, this is very much where the Tracer 900 is happy, cruising down the freeway. It's geared nicely. It gets pretty good mileage. I get, what have I been getting? About 45 miles to the gallon is what I've been getting. So 4.8 gallons of gas. You got basically 200-mile range, which is pretty good, I think. Although, while we're on the subject, the fuel gauge on this bike is pretty frustrating. It's the same, if you remember the FJ09, it's the same as that one. So when you lose 1 bar from the fuel gauge, you're down to half a tank right away. So you'll ride almost 100 miles and think, oh, full tank, and then it jumps down, and then the last half a tank goes a lot faster. And I haven't actually gotten 200 miles out of a tank because I've been too scared, because it starts blinking at me and telling me I got to get gas at like 180 miles. And because I'm all out of sorts from its weird gas calculations in the fuel gauge, I just sort of panic a little bit, and I fill up at 190 miles or 195 miles because I can't bring myself to do it. So like I said, you get that adjustable suspension, which is nice when you hit some curves like this. Oof, that's a garbage truck, and it smells bad. It stinks. And what does not stink is the Tracer 900's general handling, which is pretty good, which we can't experiment with because we're behind a semi-truck. But anyway, it's a really nice bike. It feels lighter than it's almost 500 pounds, and it will keep you entertained on a twisty road. Faux show. Alrighty, we got a hot minute to talk about this dash. Who's it? So that's your R1 dash, basically, right? And you get this little wheel down here that controls it. So you'll see these numbers jump around when I click, click, click. It's pretty cool. And when you want to reset a trip, you just tap the wheel and you get into the menu system. It's a nice application of this dash, I think. It does feel a little bit small, I think, compared to the in the R1 cockpit, because the R1 is, you know, it's got like a shrouded little cockpit, whereas this one is sort of feels bigger and the screen feels a little small. And also there are lots of other dashes out there that are that are bigger, right? I mean, it's pretty common these days to see big, juicy, I mean, heck, a KTM 390 Duke has a huge color dash now. So this one does feel a little bit 2015, if I'm honest, but it is a very cool dash. It changes color at night to get darker, and gear position indicator is cool, and the menu system is pretty cool. Yeah, if you hold this down, you get into the settings. So you can change the shift light, you can change the brightness. This is where you change the grip warmer setting, which of course I think is fun. And how do you get out of here? I think you hold it down. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so it's a cool situation. And then cruise, which we didn't use cruise because we sat in this little bit of traffic on the freeway there, but basic cruise setup. You tap it to turn it on. You can see the light comes on there. Do it, and then tap down for set. Pretty good. And this is where you change TC settings. So you got, two TC settings. I like TC1 because it saves you from slapping yourself on the ground, but it still allows a gentle wooly every now and then, which of course I'm a fan of. Crap. The MT-09 platform might be the king of the little low wheelie when you're leaving a stoplight, the like covert kind of wheelie. It just like floats the front wheel, just dances it above the pavement for a second. It's so much fun. Outstanding. Really, really fun. And I think it's important that if you have a practical bike like this, that it still stirs your soul a little bit, and that's the cool thing about the Tracer, is that it does have that. The core feels very MT-09, and the MT-09 is not a perfect motorcycle, but it is a lot of fun. So I said I was going to circle back on price, and now is a good time to do that because the Tracer 900 GT, like I said, is $13,000. The non-GT is $10,700, I believe. So I have a few feelings about that. Mostly, I would like to point out that when the FZ09 came out, it was $7,990, right? It was $79.90, just under $8,000. It was like amazing bang for the buck. And now this bike is $13,000, which is a much different strata of price, and yet it has the same brakes and the same fueling and that kind of stuff. And that's a little hard to swallow sometimes. Can you back it in? Sort of. It's got ABS, so it's not great for that, if I'm honest. But it'll do willies all day long. Alright, we'll try one more back in here, see if we can do a little bit better job. But you can't shut off the ABS, so you gotta kind of trick it a little bit. There we go. Good stuff. Anyway, what I was saying is that now that the bike is $13,000, all of a sudden people are asking, like, how does it compare to an Africa Twin or a Ninja 1000 or a Triumph Tiger 800? And that's sort of like, that's big company, right? But I think, Yamaha feels like they feel like they're sitting on a winner. And I don't know, I feel like it's a little bit hard to argue. I mean, it's, there's a lot to be said for it. I mean, the engine is cool. It's very cool. Probably don't really need to hear what it sounds like much more though, do you? Because we've all heard an FZ09 at this point. This is another thing that for 13 grand bugs me. The key is mounted on the top triple clamp, which on an MT-09 is fine because it's a nice flat bar, but this thing is up on big risers, and now there's this dash sticking out here, and when you go to reach for the key, your hand has to go down in between everything and pull the key out, and if you're wearing bulky gloves, it's kind of annoying. So there are still some evolutionary steps that the Tracer 900, aka the GU GT, needs to go through. Here's a little luggage demonstration. Just got there, a little strap to hold your stuff in. The The Fudge 9 luggage was ungodly chintzy in my mind. This stuff is a little better, a little bit harder case, not quite as flimsy. The latches are a little bit better, and they have a new mounting system which is a little bit cleaner, which is nice. Mostly it's just a nice add that it comes with the bike. Okay, so Tracer 9 Hundo. We're going to answer some Instagram questions real quick that people were nice enough to send my way, and then we'll be done with this commute here. The first one that I want to cover is this or a Versys 650. People were comparing it to the Versys 650 and the Versys 1000. To me, the Versys 650 is still a better bike than the Versys 1000, and it's cheaper. And again, this gets back to the price, right? I mean, a Versys 650 with luggage is $9 grand. It's a pretty big delta. You save $4,000 and get that bike, and it's pretty good, man. This does have some nice stuff. It has, it has the heated grips, it has the TFT, and it has quite a bit more power. So, it does, but that Versys 650 is real tough to argue against. I can't tell you what to do. I can just tell you that I would get a Versys probably. How high can it wheelie? Pretty high. I think it's worth the money to buy the GT. Okay, that's a good question. Yeah, I think so. I think if you're going to do it right, get the good suspension, get the luggage, get the TFT dash, get the cruise. You're going to want it. RGJR68 asks, why not better blinkers? And I could not agree more. Why is Yamaha still using these things? Ugh. They make those nice LED ones that are on the R1. Why don't you just put those on other bikes? Oh, man. Motomat R3 asks, if you want a bike that will be comfortable to ride the 3 hours to get to the twisties while still being fun and sportish when you get there, is this bike a candidate? Yes, is the answer to that. Motomat, this bike is a candidate. Rocker88 asks, Tracer or V-Strom? Tracer, in my opinion. V-Strom doesn't do anything for me. Will a 5'7" man ride it comfortably? My Instagram username asked that. That's a good question, and a pretty good Instagram username, if you ask me. It depends how confident that 5'7" man will be. I assume you're asking for a friend. It is a tall bike. I have witnessed coworkers who are approximately that size ride the bike and be totally fine. But yeah, sit on one before you write a check for sure. Quayland2325 is 6'6". There you are. There's a 6'6" guy. Is it good for taller riders? We covered it. How's the windshield? We covered it. Zub T asks, can you throw knobby tires on it and do some mild off-roading? That was another question that I got a fair amount. Will it go off-road? Probably, but look at the ground clearance. There's not a lot going on here, right? And these pipes are dangling down here. So no, I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it if you want to. Thanks very much, you guys, for asking all those questions. I really appreciate it. It's fun engaging with you all, and I hope you enjoyed this commute, and I hope you'll look for the additional information in the description of this video for more info on the bike and our sponsors, and I very much hope I'll see you next time. See ya!